Okay, I've been hearing a lot about this soup coffee recently after many people in the coffee groups I'm in have watched the videos about it by Lance Hedrick. Soup stands for Spro, only unpressurized. Instead of grinding super fine for a 9-bar espresso shot, you use a much more coarsely ground coffee, somewhere between what you would do for a turbo shot and for a pour over, and you use an espresso maker where you can control the pressure to start your shot with almost no pressure at all. Once you push down the arm of whatever espresso maker you're using and you've saturated the group fully by water, and you can see the bottom of your portafilter all dripping out, you just push through all of the water and get a strong, high TDS coffee. People have been raving about how much they like their soup shots, and they can definitely be tasty, but I'm sorry to say I'm not convinced, and in this video I'm going to explain why. And I don't know if you saw this yet, but I recently announced the Spira 3D printed ceramic espresso cups. It's a collab between me and Ceramica Studios. I'll be using the internal fin structure here to aerate the drinks in this video so I get a fuller flavor. Our first batch sold out within the hour, so we're making more for a second drop soon, so make sure you're following me and ceramicastudio.lab on Instagram to see those when they go live. Okay, back to the video. I like Lance a lot. I've met him at coffee shows and we always have interesting chats. He knows a lot more than me about coffee, and I'm not planning on getting into a dick measuring contest here, but in my opinion, this soup thing is for people who don't like espresso as much as they like filter. And that's fine, enjoy your coffee however you like, but I'm sorry, this is strong filter coffee made with an espresso machine. It's not espresso, and I'm going to challenge you to try an experiment at home to see if I'm right. So I'm using a Flair 58+2 here to make my soup, and then I'm going to brew an extra strong filter coffee here and taste them side by side. A standard V60 filter coffee is a 1:15 or 16 ratio. My standard recipe is 15 grams of ground coffee and 250 grams of water. I'm going to go ahead and use the same recipe, but I'm going to stop at around 85 grams and use this Hario switch to get a little more extraction at the beginning to try and get a little closer to matching a soup level of extraction. Of course, for the soup coffee, I'll use Lance's recipe, about 85 grams of water in to produce 50 to 55 grams out with an espresso puck of around 17 grams, making it roughly a 1:3 ratio. This is a very light Ethiopian coffee that soup is supposed to be ideal for. And I've got all the details of how I'm doing this differently in my Brew Ledger so I can track and make adjustments. I did a few iterations to get a strong enough brew, but I think I pretty much got it. So let's taste them side by side. Paper filter. There we go, and that's my soup. So I'm going to leave this for about a minute to immerse the coffee in the brew. That's going to extract a little bit more so it's a little bit closer to what you'd get with a soup. All right. Now the cool thing about this time or scale is that I can see separately how much is on the bottom. Okay, so even just looking at them, they look a little bit different. The one that is the soup coffee is a little bit more cloudy. There's a little bit more of the carbon dioxide coming through. Obviously I tried to keep it to 0. It was like 0 to 0.5 bar of pressure, but it's a little bit more cloudy, whereas this one is very, very clear. But let's taste them and see. I'm gonna start off with the filter. A lot of sweetness from this coffee. It's a really nice coffee. This one's from Curve Coffee Roasters. It's their feature filter, and it's a natural process. Very, very good coffee. Tastes really delicious. Let's try the soup. There's a little bit more texture going on there, but nothing like what you would get from an espresso, where it's got that rich, smooth, delicious clarity. I'm gonna pull an espresso in a second and compare them. Yes, I do think this one has a tiny bit more texture. It's rich, bright, punchy. I mean, it's a really nice coffee. But I actually prefer this very, very strong filter coffee that I stopped at 85 grams. Now, of course, these are different brew methods, but I think they're close enough in flavor to point out exactly what I'm saying, which is that soup is closer to a strong, maybe even over-extracted filter coffee than it is to espresso. And that's the thing, I don't dislike it. It's a really tasty coffee, but it's just lacking that explosiveness, the texture, and the balance that I get from a well-extracted espresso. Let me show you. Gorgeous. That's what I'm looking for. It's got that boldness and that texture, which is what I really enjoy about a good espresso. And so much clarity. I apologize for all the slurping. Okay, I need to stop, otherwise I'm not going to sleep. So I get it, espresso shots are really hard to dial in, and with light roasts it can be pretty infuriating. One of the promises of soup shots is that it's much more replicable and easy to do than the constant struggle against channeling that dialing in a high pressure espresso is. The pressure adds a big variable that's really hard to predict, and the finer you grind, the more likely you are to run into coffee physics problems that cause channeling and make it harder to get your perfect shot. Obviously, I've put quite a lot of my life into making good coffee. I've got this expensive setup, a YouTube channel about coffee, and I spend a lot of time exploring and testing new things. So if you just want a decent tasting coffee and you don't want to learn all that stuff, then trying one of those OXO brewers and making soup might just be great for you. And I have no problem with trying new things. If you like soup, pull soup shots all day long. Don't ever let a coffee influencer tell you that you must enjoy your coffee a certain way. But I'm just not a really big filter fan. It's nice for testing new coffees out, but I rarely drink it at home. I'm an espresso guy and I like my espresso. I also really love a good cortado or a flat white. Milk and coffee are best friends, and I have a flat white most mornings. So that's just my routine and I enjoy it. Soup shots do not work for milky drinks the same way as real espresso does. I know the internet is all about memes and coining specific terms for ultra specific techniques, especially in coffee. I mean, look at all the words we use for stuff like Weiss distribution tool or WDT for those needles that distribute your coffee, or Ross droplet technique or RDT for spraying your beans before grinding. So soup, or Spro only unpressurized, is a cool and memeable name for a very specific way of brewing coffee. Maybe it'll catch on and it'll be the next big thing, maybe not, but I have a hunch that a lot of people will forget about this in a few months and go back to brewing nice espresso because they prefer it. I know I already have. What do you think? Have you tried pulling soup shots? Do you prefer them to espresso? Let me know in the comments and check the description for a link to my book, The Brew Ledger, which will help you dial in your espresso, or your soup, much more quickly. And follow me and Ceramica Studio on Instagram to get your hands on one of the very few sets of 3D printed espresso cups that we'll be sharing very soon. Thank you so much for watching, you wonderfully overcaffeinated people, and I'll see you on the next one.